Jadwiga, also known as Hedwig, reigned as the first female monarch of the Kingdom of Poland from 1384 until her death. She was the youngest daughter of Louis the Great, King of Hungary and Poland, and his wife, Elizabeth of Bosnia. Jadwiga was a member of the Capetian House of Anjou, but she was even more closely related to the native Piast dynasty of Poland through her ancestors. She was canonized as a saint in the Roman Catholic Church in 1997. Her marriage to William of Habsburg was planned in 1375, and she lived in Austria between 1378 and 1380. Jadwiga and William were allegedly regarded as her father's favored successors in Hungary after her eldest sister's death in 1379. Since the Polish nobleman had paid homage to Louis's second daughter, Mary, and Mary's fiancé, Sigismund of Luxembourg that same year. However, Louis died and Mary was crowned King of Hungary, on the demand of her mother in 1382. Sigismund of Luxembourg tried to seize Poland, but the Polish noblemen countered that they would only obey a daughter of King Louis if she settled in the country. The elderly Queen Elizabeth then nominated Jadwiga to reign in Poland, but did not send her to Krakow to be crowned. During the interregnum, Siemowit IV, Duke of Masovia, became a candidate for the Polish throne. The nobles of Greater Poland especially favored him, proposing he marry Jadwiga. However, the noblemen of Lesser Poland opposed his election and persuaded Queen Elizabeth to send Jadwiga to Poland. Jadwiga was crowned king in Krakow on the 16th of October 1384. Her crowning either reflected the Polish lord's opposition to her intended future husband, William, adopting the royal title without a further act, or only emphasized that she was a queen regnant. With her mother's consent, Jadwiga's advisors opened negotiations with Jogaila, Grand Duke of Lithuania, who was more than 30 years older and still a heathen, about his marriage to Jadwiga. Jogaila signed the Union of Krakow, promising to convert to Roman Catholicism and to promote his pagan subjects' conversion. Meanwhile, William of Habsburg hurried to Krakow to demand the consummation of his pre-arranged marriage with Jadwiga, but the Polish lords expelled him in late August 1385. Jogaila, who received the baptismal name Vladislav, married Jadwiga on the 15th of February 1386. Legend says that she had only agreed to marry him after long prayers, seeking divine inspiration. Vladislav Jogaila was crowned king on the 4th of March. As her co-ruler, Vladislav closely cooperated with his wife. After rebellious lords had imprisoned her mother and sister, she marched into the Ruthenia, which had been under Hungarian rule, and persuaded most local inhabitants to become subjects of the Polish crown without resistance. She acted as mediator between her husband's quarreling kinsmen and between Poland and the Teutonic Knights. After her sister, Mary, died in 1395, Jadwiga and Vladislav Jogaila laid claim to Hungary against the widowed Sigismund of Luxembourg, but the Hungarian lords did not support them. Childhood. Jadwiga was the third and youngest daughter of Louis I, King of Hungary and Poland, and his second wife, Elizabeth of Bosnia. Both her grandmothers were Polish princesses, connecting her to the native Piast dynasty of Poland. Historian Oskar Halecki concluded that Jadwiga's genealogical tree clearly shows that he had more Polish blood than any other. She was born in Buda. The date of her birth is unknown. She was probably born after the 3rd of October 1373. On this day, her father issued a charter which listed her two elder sisters, Catherine and Mary, without mentioning Jadwiga. Her name was first recorded in her father's instructions to his envoys to France on the 17th of April 1384. If by then, Jadwiga had reached 12 years, she must have been born before the 18th of February 1374. She was named after her distant ancestor, St. Hedwig of Silesia, who was especially venerated in the Hungarian royal court at the time of her birth. King Louis, who had not fathered any sons, wanted to ensure his daughter's right to inherit his realms. Therefore, European royals regarded his three daughters as especially attractive brides. Leopold III, Duke of Austria, proposed his eldest son, William, to Jadwiga already on the 18th of August 1374. The envoys of the Polish nobles acknowledged that one of Louis's daughters would succeed him in Poland after he confirmed and extended the liberties in the privilege of Kozice on the 17th of September 1374. They took an oath of loyalty to Catherine on Louis's demand. Louis agreed to give Jadwiga in marriage to William of Austria on the 4th of March 1375. The two children's sponsalia de futuro, or provisional marriage, was celebrated at Hainburg on the 15th of June 1378. The ceremony established the legal framework for the consummation of the marriage without any further ecclesiastical act. As soon as they both reached the age of maturity, Duke Leopold agreed that Jadwiga would only receive Treviso, a town which was to be conquered from the Republic of Venice, as dowry from her father. After the ceremony, Jadwiga stayed in Austria for almost 2 years. She mainly lived in Vienna. Catherine died in late 1378. Louis persuaded the most influential Polish lords to swear an oath of loyalty to her younger sister, Mary, in September 1379. She was betrothed to Sigismund of Luxembourg, a great-grandson of Casimir the Great, who had been Louis's predecessor on the Polish throne. The promised marriage of Jadwiga and William was confirmed at the fathers' meeting in Zolium on the 12th of February 1380. Hungarian lords also approved the document, implying that Jadwiga and William were regarded as her father's successors in Hungary. Louis suffered from a serious skin disease during his last years. A delegation of the Polish lords and clergy paid formal homage to Sigismund of Luxembourg as the future king on the 25th of July 1382. The Poles believed that he planned also to persuade the Hungarian lords and prelates to accept Jadwiga and William of Austria as his heirs in Hungary. However, he died on the 11th of September 1382. Jadwiga was present at her father's deathbed. Towards coronation, Jadwiga's sister, Mary, was crowned King of Hungary 5 days after the father's death. With the ceremony, their ambitious mother secured the right to govern Hungary on her 12-year-old daughter's behalf instead of Mary's fiancé, Sigismund. Sigismund could not be present at Mary's coronation, because Louis had sent him to Poland to crush a rebellion. After he learned of Louis's death, he adopted the title Lord of the Kingdom of Poland, demanding oaths of loyalty from the towns in Lesser Poland. On the 25th of November, the nobles of Greater Poland assembled at Radomsko and decided to obey nobody but the daughter of the late king, as she would settle in Poland. On their initiative, the noblemen of Lesser Poland passed a similar agreement in Wielka on the 12th of December. Queen Elizabeth sent her envoys to the assembled lords and forbade them to swear an oath of loyalty to anyone other than one of her daughters, thus invalidating the oath of loyalty that the Polish noblemen had sworn to Sigismund on the late King Louis's demand. However, both her daughters had been engaged to foreign princes unpopular in Poland. Polish lords who were opposed to a foreign monarch regarded the members of the Piast dynasty as possible candidates to the Polish throne. Queen Elizabeth's uncle, Vladislav the White, had already attempted to seize Poland during Louis's reign. However, he had taken monastic vows and settled in a Benedictine abbey in Dijon in Burgundy. Anti-Pope Clement VII, whom King Louis had refused to recognize against Pope Urban VI, released Vladislav from his vows, but he did not leave his monastery. Meanwhile, Siemowit IV, Duke of Masovia, appeared as a more ambitious candidate. He was especially popular among the nobility and townspeople of Greater Poland. Queen Elizabeth's representatives released the Poles from their oath of fidelity that the representatives had sworn to Mary at an assembly in Sieradz in February 1383. The envoys also announced that she was willing to send Jadwiga to be crowned King of Poland, on condition that she returned to Buda after her coronation to live there until her 12th birthday. The Polish lords accepted the proposal, but they soon realized that thereby the interregnum would be extended by a further 3 years. At a new meeting in Sieradz, most noblemen were ready to elect Siemowit of Masovia king on the 28th of March. They proposed that Siemowit should marry Jadwiga, a member of the influential Teczyński family. Jan convinced them to postpone Siemowit's election. The noblemen agreed to wait for Jadwiga until the 10th of May, stipulating that she was to live in Poland after her coronation. They also demanded that Dobrynia Newcow and Ruthenia be restored to the Polish crown. Meanwhile, Jan Teczyński and his allies, including Jadwiga Palucha, seem to have started negotiations with Jogaila, Grand Duke of Lithuania. Siemowit's supporters, however, tried to enter Krakow in the retinue of Bodzanta, Archbishop of Gniezno, in May, but the townspeople closed the gates of the city before their arrival. Jadwiga had not arrived in Poland by the stipulated date. Her mother's envoys stated that the spring floods had hindered Jadwiga's progress over the Carpathian Mountains. Siemowit of Masovia took up arms and advanced as far as Kalisz. His supporters assembled in Sieradz in August in order to elect him king, but Archbishop Bodzanta refused to perform his coronation. In a meeting in Kassa, Queen Elizabeth promised the delegates of the Polish provinces to send Jadwiga to Poland before November. The Queen Mother and the Poles also agreed that if either Jadwiga or Mary died childless, her kingdom would pass to her surviving sister. Siemowit having laid siege to Kalisz, Queen Elizabeth sent Sigismund of Luxembourg at the head of an improvised army to Lesser Poland. Siemowit failed to take Kalisz, but news about the appalling behavior of Sigismund's soldiers increased Sigismund's unpopularity in Poland. Jadwiga Palucha, who was the castellan of Kalisz and Starosta of Krakow, led a delegation to Zadar in Croatia to negotiate with Queen Elizabeth, but she had him imprisoned instead. She sent Hungarian soldiers to Poland to garrison them in Warel Castle in Krakow, but Palucha escaped and successfully obstructed her soldiers entering the castle. At a General Assembly in Radomsko in early March, the delegates of all the Polish provinces and towns decided to elect Siemowit king. If Jadwiga did not come to Poland within 2 months, they set up a provisional government, stipulating that only the community of lords and citizens had the authority to administer Poland during the interregnum. Queen Elizabeth, who was only informed of the decision by an informal message, realized that she could not any longer postpone Jadwiga's coronation and so sent her to Poland. The exact date of Jadwiga's arrival is unknown, because the main source for the history of Poland during this period, Jan of Zanko's chronicle, ended prior to this event.